Language in the Real World and Social Media by Kayla Stevenson. Every language has been changing ever since it was created. Whether new words are being created, old ones are evolving, or new symbols are being used. Ultimately, there is no way to stop language from changing, so the language we know and use today will not be the same in a few decades. The changing of the language known today is also having a positive effect on the adolescent using and creating it. The people of today are unaware, but use many different versions of their language throughout their day. People use two different vocabularies depending on whether they are speaking formally to a group or casually to their family and friends. A different vocabulary is also used writing on paper versus when writing a text message or a post on social media. These different ways to communicate differ by the language and vocabulary used to get the necessary point across. A new and extremely popular language being used today is the language in social media. Social media is a way to electronically keep in touch and socialize with people no matter where they are at the moment. Social media has created a new and efficient way to communicate across the World Wide Web with anyone necessary. It allows the person to put their own words out in the world. On the internet, the way people create posts and write comments differ from the way they actually speak. Social media has given people a chance to really express themselves in many ways. People communicate using emoticons, punctuation signs, pictures, acronyms, and abbreviated words. This new and growing language has given users a way to show their creative side while communicating with others. Speaking in this new way allows people to use more emotion while speaking to a friend. Adding smiley faces, sad faces, or even a diva emoji helps the creator of the message get their point across without really explaining themselves. The emojis do all the talking themselves. It also allows the writer to quickly get necessary points across as quick as possible. Instead of writing out every word, social media has a shortened language that substitutes real words with abbreviations, code words, and acronyms. Over time, the language has changed dramatically, and it will always continue to change. John McWhorter, who was a guest speaker on TED Talk, a talk show containing ideas that are worth spreading, in the lecture "Texting is Killing Language, JK," McWhorter speaks of the effects that texting has on the future. McWhorter said, "Take that person from 1993, not that long ago, and they read a typical text written by a 20-year-old today. Often they would have no idea what half of it meant because a whole new language has developed among our young people." He talks about how he would want to go about 19 years in the future to see where and how language has developed since our time. Language is always changing and will not be the same in a few decades. Over the past few years, it had seemed that the newest textese and social media language was an unhealthy experience for growing children. It was in debate that it was ruining the children's idea of language, grammar, and their communication skills. Adding on to the possible negativity, it was taking away and replacing the true names and meanings of words that everyone used to know. Many researchers and essayists had done studies on whether or not social media language had a negative impact on children and their learning abilities. Most of the researches that took place came back with the same responses. In the Electronic Turkish Studies Journal, this journal consists of many different studies having to do with different electronic situations. Zekai Tamer Gencer wrote the article "Visualization of the Language in Social Media, a Research Aimed at Using the Visual Keyboard and Punctuation Marks." Gencer wrote, "Previous studies have shown that textese has a positive effect on children's literacy abilities. In addition, it is possible that children's grammar system is affected by the textese as well, as grammar rules are often transgressed in this register." Gencer goes on about how the grammar of the children using the new language may be failing, even though their abilities are increasing. Even if they are improving in the English language itself, their grammar might be deteriorating as they use this language. Later on into his study, Gencer and his colleagues find that the textese language does not negatively affect grammar. Social media does not have a negative impact on children at all. If anything, it has an incredibly positive impact. The language that children are using on social media and texting has actually increased their learning skills and improved their grammar. Another experiment involving the language of social media was held by linguists who had also studied the behavior of young children, about 10 to 13 years old, who interact using social media. PLOS One, a journal containing studies on grade school children that supplies many charts and graphs, has an article containing information about results on young children written by Chantal van Dijk and her collaborators. In the journal, the influence of texting language on grammar and executive executive functions in primary school children. Dijk writes, on the other hand, children who are proficient in textese might have similar advantages as bilingual children have, as they might be considered a special type of bilinguals in a different modality, having to switch between formal written language and textese. Children or anyone in this generation are learning or are already experts at the textese language, making it a phenomenal breakthrough. Textese is similar to the way people talk, but simpler and easier to read faster. Children being proficient in this new social media language seem to know two different languages, being able to switch back and forth from correct grammar and the grammar of textese. After their final studies, Dijk and her co-workers had found that the new language had no effect on children at all. Dijk writes, our results show that textese is positively related on children's grammar performance. On the other hand, use of textese does not affect positively nor negatively children's executive functions. The study done by these linguists did not find any positive effects on the children, unlike the study done by Genser. The charts and graphs prove that there is no negative effects, so whether or not the new language of social media has a positive effect on its users is an opinion. The language that will be used in the future will be completely different, considering that the language used today isn't the same as the one used about 3 decades ago. Even today, words are being changed and punctuation signs are losing their actual names and are being called something else. Culture, a reader for writers, an English composition textbook published in 2014, contains the essay, How Twitter Saved the Octothorpe. It describes the evolution of a simple kind of punctuation and how its usage has changed over time. Fulford writes, it lost its proud place alongside the and the at symbol, on the shelf higher than both the C and the R. The octothorpe had completely disappeared and then came back because of social media. This type of change had happened to many types of punctuation, acronyms, and words that are seen every day. The meanings of these things change along with moderation and how generations evolve. In this essay, Fulford writes, and what about the name octothorpe? It's been replaced, obviously, but there's no reason to be upset. Change is the law of usage. The term now becomes, at least for the immediate future, a historical artifact. Along with the octothorpe, there are many other words that have lost their meaning and have been replaced. An example of this would be the word cupboard. Most children these days may not know what a cupboard is, while older generations would say it is a cabinet. Over time, words have changed for newer generations, while older people have kept the past words in their vocabulary. There are times where someone young says one word and an older person says something different, but they mean the exact same things. Many people in this decade have experienced the change of words throughout their lives and have witnessed many people's vocabulary change. Most of the words are used in different ways, but over time, people have learned the meaning and used it more and more. A few words that have been changed over time but are still continually used are dude, amazing, and so good. The words have been changed to something else, especially on social media, by a recent generation just to make using the words cooler. Multiple people use the words bruh instead of dude. The words that parents and grandparents have used are still there, but just have been replaced. For example, if someone wanted to say, dude, want to hear something amazing? My dinner last night was so good. They would actually say, bruh, want to hear something bomb? My dinner last night was slap. Another example is when people call their vehicles their whips. The language changed by a word at a time, changing and growing larger every day. All of these changes happened as a result of time. Every language is changing all of the time. New things are said every day, and they start to sound acceptable to everyone. The text talk that people use usually consists of many words, acronyms, or abbreviations which older people may not understand. While texting, a lot of people abbreviate almost everything. After a period of time, there have been many new things created. A couple acronyms that an older person may not know are LMAO, LOL, and ROTFL. They are used to express happiness and laughter while not actually seeing the other person's reaction to what was said. The difference is that when people used to write letters, they had to incorporate more emotion into each word. And as time goes on, there will be more changes that will happen. As a result, every person causes things to change in life, including messaging like BRB, GTG, or even TTYL. Another thing that has changed over time is the use of quotation marks. When people talk about something, sometimes they put their hands up and make air quotes. People tend to use air quotes when they are trying to be sarcastic about something. Adults never used air quotes to be sarcastic or bring a point across. This point goes back to the change of communication there is in today's society. Over time, punctuation has lost its importance due to the moderation of life. In the text, Fulford writes, "Why can't the rest of the world understand that a well-designed semicolon or an expertly made stop sign is every bit as enthralling as a mint Batman first edition, an early sketch of the Jedi, or a photograph signed by Margaret Kidder herself?" There are some people still in the world that care deeply about punctuation, but it is slowly being used wrong and missing in necessary places. Fulford writes, "Why can't they care about the tragically missing apostrophe on the logo of a certain coffee shop chain?" Fulford describes how even large known signs that are everywhere are even missing important punctuations. It can be argued that the original language used is dying or that it is becoming advanced. Either way, the language is changing and there is no way to possibly stop it. Every day, young people are creating new words and new acronyms. Every year, a new batch of emojis are created to add new emotions to each social media post or every text sent out. The new language of social media or texties is improving the grammar of people using it and also making them better at their own language. It also is improving their creativity to learn new things and become proficient. People use multiple different languages every day and are completely unaware of the linguistic miracle going on in our world.